There are many counterfeits of character, but the genuine article is difficult to be mistaken. Some, knowing its money value, would assume its disguise for the purpose of imposing upon the unwary. Colonel Charteris said to a man distinguished for his honesty, "I would give £1,000 for your good name." "Why?" "Because I could make 10,000 by it," was the knave's reply. Integrity in word and deed is the backbone of character, and loyal adherence to veracity its most prominent characteristic. One of the finest testimonies to the character of the late Sir Robert Peel was that borne by the Duke of Wellington in the House of Lords, a few days after the great statesman's death. "Your lordships," he said, "must all feel the high and honourable character of the late Sir Robert Peel. I was long connected with him in public life. We were both in the councils of our sovereign together, and I had long the honour to enjoy his private friendship. In all the course of my acquaintance with him I never knew a man in whose truth and justice I had greater confidence, or in whom I saw a more invariable desire to promote the public service. In the whole course of my communication with him, I never knew an instance in which he did not show the strongest attachment to truth, and I never saw in the whole course of my life the smallest reason for suspecting that he stated anything which he did not firmly believe to be the fact. And this high-minded truthfulness of the statesman was no doubt the secret of no small part of his influence and power. There is a truthfulness in action as well as in words, which is essential to uprightness of character. A man must really be what he seems or purposes to be. When an American gentleman wrote to Granville Sharp, that from respect for his great virtues he had named one of his sons after him, Sharp replied, "I must request you to teach him a favorite maxim of the family whose name you have given him, always endeavor to be really what you would wish to appear." This maxim, as my father informed me, was carefully and humbly practiced by his father, whose sincerity, as a plain and honest man, thereby became the principal feature of his character, both in public and private life. Every man who respects himself, and values the respect of others, will carry out the maxim in act, doing honestly what he proposes to do, putting the highest character into his work, scamping nothing, but priding himself upon his integrity and conscientiousness. Once Cromwell said to Bernard, a clever but somewhat unscrupulous lawyer, "I understand that you have lately been vastly wary in your conduct. Do not be too confident of this. Subtlety may deceive you, integrity never will. Men whose acts are at direct variance with their words, command no respect, and what they say has but little weight. Even truths, when uttered by them, seem to come blasted from their lips. The true character acts rightly, whether in secret or in the sight of men." That boy was well trained who, when asked why he did not pocket some pears, for nobody was there to see, replied, "Yes, there was, I was there to see myself. And I don't intend ever to see myself do a dishonest thing." This is a simple but not inappropriate illustration of principle, or conscience, dominating in the character, and exercising a noble protectorate over it. Not merely a passive influence, but an active power regulating the life. Such a principle goes on molding the character hourly and daily, growing with a force that operates every moment. Without this dominating influence, character has no protection, but is constantly liable to fall away before temptation. And every such temptation succumb to, every act of meanness or dishonesty, however slight, causes self-degradation. It matters not whether the act be successful or not, discovered or concealed. The culprit is no longer the same, but another person. And he is pursued by a secret uneasiness, by self-reproach, or the workings of what we call conscience, which is the inevitable doom of the guilty. And here it may be observed how greatly the character may be strengthened and supported by the cultivation of good habits. Man, it has been said, is a bundle of habits. And habit is second nature. Metastasio entertained so strong an opinion as to the power of repetition in act and thought, that he said, "All is habit in mankind, even virtue itself." Butler, in his analogy, impresses the importance of careful self-discipline and firm resistance to temptation, as tending to make virtue habitual, so that at length it may become more easy to be good than to give way to sin. As habits belonging to the body, he says, are produced by external acts, so habits of the mind are produced by the execution of inward practical purposes, that is, carrying them into act, or acting upon them, the principles of obedience, veracity, justice, and charity. And again, Lord Brougham says, when enforcing the immense importance of training and example in youth, I trust everything under God to habit, on which, in all ages, the lawgiver, as well as the schoolmaster, has mainly placed his reliance. Habit, which makes everything easy, and casts the difficulties upon the deviation from a wonted course. Thus, make sobriety a habit, and intemperance will be hateful. Make prudence a habit, and reckless profligacy will become revolting to every principle of conduct which regulates the life of the individual. Hence the necessity for the greatest care and watchfulness against the inroad of any evil habit. For the character is always weakest at that point at which it has once given way, and it is long before a principle restored can become so firm as one that has never been moved. It is a fine remark of a Russian writer, that habits are a necklace of pearls, untie the knot, and the whole in threads. Wherever formed, habit acts involuntarily, and without effort. And, it is only when you oppose it, that you find how powerful it has become. What is done once and again, soon gives facility and proneness. The habit at first may seem to have no more strength than a spider's web. But, once formed, it binds us with a chain of iron. The small events of life, taken singly, may seem exceedingly unimportant, like snow that falls silently, flake by flake. Yet accumulated, these snowflakes form the avalanche. Self-respect, self-help, application, industry, integrity, all are of the nature of habits, not beliefs. Principles, in fact, are but the names which we assign to habits. For the principles are words, but the habits are the things themselves, benefactors or tyrants, according as they are good or evil. It thus happens that as we grow older, a portion of our free activity and individuality becomes suspended in habit. Our actions become of the nature of fate. And we are bound by the chains which we have woven around ourselves. It is indeed scarcely possible to overestimate the importance of training the young to virtuous habits. In them they are the easiest formed, and when formed they last for life. Like letters cut on the bark of a tree, they grow and widen with age. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old he will not depart from it. The beginning holds within it the end. The first start on the road of life determines the direction and the destination of the journey. Cen est que le premier pas qui coûte. Remember, said Lord Collingwood to a young man whom he loved, before you are 25 you must establish a character that will serve you all your life. As habit strengthens with age, and character becomes formed, any turning into a new path becomes more and more difficult. Hence, it is often harder to unlearn than to learn. And for this reason the Grecian flute player was justified to charge double fees to those pupils who had been taught by an inferior master. To uproot an old habit is sometimes a more painful thing, and vastly more difficult, than to wrench out a tooth. Try and reform a habitually indolent, or improvident, or drunken person, and in a large majority of cases you will fail. For the habit in each case has wound itself in and through the life until it has become an integral part of it, and cannot be uprooted. Hence, as Mr. Lynch observes, the wisest habit of all is the habit of care in the formation of good habits.